that took the time in, so Stephen and I just introduced ourselves. I think he was here last time and I was on Zoom and was reversed the time before that.
I'm Garrett.
Oh,
Highway superintendent.
oh, hi, Garrett. I figured that's who you were, but
That's me.
And I'm Kathy Richard. Is everybody else?
Rick Probias.
keep myself.
I'm Rusty Paulsgrove. I am the Community Development Administrator. Did we get everybody? Okay, awesome. Does anybody have a motion to review and approve previous minutes? I can't make a motion. I'm not a member.
Make a motion.
Thank you. Rich makes a motion.
Second.
Awesome, we've got a second, and then everybody's in person, so we can do a raised hand vote. Would anybody like to see, I have copies here, if anybody would like to see them, this also went out over email.
Yep.
Are we good to vote? Alrighty. All in favor, looks like we've got people in favor, we are approving the minutes. Awesome. Okay. Next on the agenda, and I'm actually. Is it okay if we go out of order, given the timetables we have people on? Because I'd love to start with, Garrett to talk about the building,
Yeah.
because I know that Mitch will be on probably when we're done chatting with Garrett about stuff, so that kind of, we can
Well,
do,
do you want to explain about Mitch?
yes. So, or why don't you explain, Kathy?
So, just so everyone knows, Mitch Mitchell is part of my team. He's a structural engineer with Power Engineering that has offices in Holyoke as well as elsewhere. And he was one of the people who came out, and did the site visit in July. And he's been on vacation for 2 weeks in August, so he, sent me, late yesterday, his initial draft letter report, which, Rusty just handed out. And, he has a meeting this morning at 10 and again, something right before noon time. But he said he would log in at about 11:10, so that's who Mitch is.
But. On top of that, the reason that Garrett is here today, because we've all been talking about the roof, which I think we can all agree is of concern. Garrett is the guy who's gonna help us coordinate getting that work done, and so I wanted to bring him here so we could all be on the same page. So. I think we should probably start with just addressing the roof patching stuff. Can I hand it to you, Garrett?
Yeah, so
Awesome.
I talked to Mr. Hawkins, talking to roofing. And I actually just talked to him before I came here. He said that he would come by and look at it. They'll do a patch repair. The roof needs to be replaced no matter what. So they'll do a patch repair to keep the water from coming into the structure, all flooding the basement, whatever it is. And then that'll buy some time. So you can, we think about how we want it first. If you don't stop the water, a building decays, 4 times faster. So I figured just get a patch put on, and then we can think about exactly how we want to roll down. It'll buy you time to say what's done. I mean, that's the first thing that has to happen. Holes in roofs.
How much time does it bounce?
Quite a bit. We'll get the drains fixed and stop the water from being in there, a couple of years.
Okay.
That's what.
Has the subject come up of the overgrown shrubs at the front?
All coming,
All come in, good.
if that's on, everybody good with that? Please?
Well,
Yeah.
I was just looking at
The old.
this old picture, and there's no shrubs in front of that building. It's a rather nice looking building, the shrubs kind of get in the way.
They were good in their time. They were nice shrubs there, but the way they are, they need to.
I remember.
And would that be your crew that would?
Yeah, we'll just.
Okay, good.
Good. and pull the vines and stuff off the back of the building and then.
We remove them all together, but
Yeah, we'll just go up and do it all. I haven't done it yet, but there's stuff in the back, we cut the bottoms, it's poison ivy, so.
have fun with it.
Yeah. Crampers, excavator, got all of it, fall.
You don't have an estimate of the roof patch cost yet?
I just talked to him today. He did say that it has to be restored to historical slate. This needs to be removed completely, decked and then reslated. You're talking 100 plus. Possibly. up to 200.
Yeah, I think that's low. That's low, that's good.
Do you think there needs to be replacement slate?
The slate is total.
Well, the only reason I mention it is West Mass Development, which is for this whole region.
Yeah.
They now own a portion of the Monson Development Center, which is an old state hospital. They are going to demolish all the most of the buildings. And there are slate roofs. So if you need old slate, that might be a place where you can get it for free.
Take to replace the roof or a patch.
I think there is enough to do the whole roof if you really wanted it.
We would
But
have
I was
to
only
think
thinking you
that
might
way.
want older slate. I don't know if it exactly matches. Center schools.
But it's a better bet than some brand new slate.
Well, it's actually based on previous people coming. What we were told, correct me if I remember this differently than you do, but that the slate that is on there is so brittle that patching it won't work. But getting enough slate to totally redo it might be an option. You don't have money.
Are we talking in the long term or the short
No,
term?
but she's
Well, I think
talking
there's,
about.
I think there's two things. There need, after the site visit and PAR's structural engineering letter also says patch the roof because
Yeah,
it is, water is your enemy.
And we've
When it comes to
done
buildings.
this all along.
So
Yeah.
even if it's
Surprise,
a
surprise.
temporary patch, you gotta do it. You may be correct, and both, and structural engineer and Sam Dennis, preservation architect said the same thing. But I have subsequent to that site visit, I was at the Monson Development Center and West Mass was saying they're demolishing all the buildings. And so they don't care about roof protection right now. And there is at least one building that's only, at least one level is only 1 story or 1 story little plus as compared to 2 or 3 stories, but there is enough slate if you need to harvest slate. Just,
No, that's great, thank you. You might even need it for some tax, do that kind of thing too. Yeah, it's a
Well-
great resource.
If it has a life to it still.
yeah, no, I mean,
I get you, it's an idea to look into, check it out. Yeah. Okay, let's do it.
So,
It's like, I'm with you, but-
but no, I was just gonna say, who's doing that? Who do we contact, that kind of stuff?
Right, well, as far as the slate's concerned, this would depend on, because there's 2 different qualities of slate, one that out of school now is poor quality, I don't remember where it's made out of, or where it's harvested from. There's I believe, the Virginia quality, or Pennsylvania quality, that was a much better slate. I can't speak for them. And it would depend on where that slate came from, whether it would be even worth bothering, but somebody would have to be able to assess that. As I guess those people who work with slate tell them this right away. But it would be good if there was a good quality slate to be able to harvest it if we were to go with the original slate group. And we can get it for a reasonable amount of money, but then we add to the cost of having somebody put on a slate group. And whether or not we can harvest enough to make it worthwhile. That would be my concern.
We're looking into it, it's got a life. And if they're not charging anything.
Why not exploit?
Well, it's whether or not we get 50 years, 100 years out of it, or 5 years out, of it. Because taking slate off,
I understand,
It's
I
first.
understand.
and if we can harvest enough, and and the cost is fair enough.
Yeah.
Then it's worth doing.
Yeah.
So we're gonna split, right, but my question is what if they do any patching, and they patch with, say, aluminum flashing in order to just get us past that time frame? To make it as cheap, a repair as possible.
Hawkins Roofing is like, he's the guy, he's the slate roof guy or whatever,
So
he does all the stuff around there, and those kind of people. They're gonna ask them questions, you need a patch job, you need a wash job, all right, I'll swing back. That's kind of just how it is, he does them everywhere,
I'm sure,
I know a little more than him about it.
I'm sure he's a quality roofer without question. Just trying to think if we're going to put money into it, how much
This is
more
the
money?
cheapest patch, I said, we're on the TARP budget, because that was my step, and they said, I got it. Yeah,
Okay,
That's good to know.
questionable, but not pretty. That's what it's gonna be.
Perfect.
And my understanding is that he also has his own lift equipment, and so there wouldn't be a need to coordinate with other projects, which I know was a concern.
thanks for following up on it, Garrett, that's good news.
All right, do we have any other immediate pressing questions about the roof repair?
Well,
We're
this,
feeling pretty good.
Kathy, can you get us a
I can
contact
get you
person?
the emails and introduction, and if it's not financially viable, I have no skin in this game.
Right.
No, good resource, yeah.
Yeah.
But when I was there, they might be, right, there's all this land.
You can't put, I'm assuming, you can't put another roof on that, a different one. Cause it's historic.
Well,
That's, in order to get state funded money, it has to be this one.
there is a synthetic slate that the historical commission.
There's one brand that they have. It's called
Da Vinci.
Da Vinci. That Mass Historical has approved, they used it on the library in Conway.
Hmm.
Which is how we found out about it.
What is it called?
Da Vinci, like
If
the
it's
artist.
like that.
That's some stuff.
Yeah, it worked,
Um,
sure, yeah.
That's considerably lighter.
it's lighter.
They can match the color.
The structural stuff.
That's-
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing they market is that they can give you the same colors. So,
Yeah.
the same, actually, I think they make it to order, so the same width and texture,
Well, if
which is
they-
why.
if it's been approved by a shipper, then
Yeah.
it should be forward.
So, yeah, so that's what we were aiming for, is the cheaper alternative, but. If,
Or use cheaper.
And that bit is more viable, so.
maybe, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
Either way, we're a long way
the
from funding either.
The question is, will somebody remove it from the Munson buildings in a way to not break it? That really would be the cost.
You have to have somebody up there, a professional roofer will take it off, and it has to be palletized on the edge.
Yeah.
Lined up in the crates. Which, I mean, you might get a roof exam seriously, you know, I can get that stuff for free, you know, drive right on it, take it all, no further jobs, huh? Like I said. It could be a great idea, could be, slate's not that great, not worth it, money wise, it's time, and effort, it's not worth it, but it's a good resource to do it. I like it. Thank you. We only get the ground, water from the basement too. So those trees out front don't help. And the gutter in the back. One that's been helping. Needs to be,
But that downspout in the back, if it was just extended
is it out with some,
with a run,
keep it away.
run it away
I just
from.
didn't know what that, I looked at it close enough to remember if that was up top, was failing or down, whatever it is, just needs to be.
I was gonna say, you won't even need a ladder for that one.
The bottom link just fell
Fell
off.
off, so yeah, so it needs to be.
And the gutters probably need cleaning for all the way down. It's that time of year.
It's so exciting to hear it's on your list.
Everything's how it goes.
It's a big list.
I got a big list.
It's a big list.
You do approve, but it's really, for me, it's really exciting to hear that this has made it to your list.
How much money do we have if it gives me a price? How much money is it extra, just the batch?
That's an unknown, this would come out of the CPA's administrative expense fund. Which was not, which was CBC, this Community Preservation Committee, has control over. They don't need to take projects out of that to town meeting, so they're intended as sort of small things to help a bigger project, which this would qualify for. There's $12,000, I think, annually in this bucket, and that has to pay for, there are some ongoing expenses anyway. My guess is, since it's so early in the fiscal year, I'd be surprised if they would go more than 7,500, but.
Just so it can have a rough idea, either. This
I
is
don't
about-
know, I don't know, I mean, it could be they do more. We haven't had any big projects lately, we haven't had any fall. On the administrative expense money.
Should probably talk
That's,
to that.
that's what's in the infrastructure money. Old money from here. Unfortunately, what happens is that if anything's left over at the end of the year, it just gets rolled over into a general fund. It doesn't, we start over again the next year, but we were able to encumber some for the structure.
So you would like us to check in with the CPA about what's available?
And I get what doesn't work that way quite.
Oh,
It's, you get an, we need.
Oh, we need the
we'll get
estimate.
an estimate.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's gonna look at,
But you just gave him a ballpark, right?
yeah, that's,
Yeah,
is this a $10,000 job or a $5,000 job?
Yeah.
You know, are we getting close?
So they have agreed to meet. As soon as there's something for them to look at.
okay, awesome.
I'll get
Okay,
a quote from.
too bad we don't have somebody on that BPA. Kidding, I do.
So, we're feeling good about the roof, about being on Garrett's list, we've got the downspout on there and everything. Are there any outstanding notes or points of interest on the roof repair? Taking that as a no, awesome,
Just to thank Garrett for coming.
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I think. We are still probably like 20 minutes out from having the structural engineer here. Do you wanna go ahead and talk about the draft survey?
Yeah.
Yeah, alright, awesome. So in the packets you guys all got, you should have a version 2 draft survey. Should look like this. You'll flip past it to find Kathy's responses to the comments and feedback, some explanation of how she incorporated things. And then one after that is just verbatim, the comments that you guys all wrote, sorted by question. I do realize I forgot question 3 on this, but everything is also written in Kathy's comments, so all the information is covered. I think now is probably a great time, everybody take a couple minutes, take a look at it. And then I'm gonna hand it over to Kathy afterwards to hear from her perspective.
Right.
And then I've got, I don't know, okay, back down. We'll look at it.
We need the time. So we need to take.
Has everybody taken a peek at it already?
No, I read it.
Everybody read it? Okay, awesome. Then I'll hand it to Kathy, and hear from her.
Well, I think what I really want to find out is, if people are comfortable with how I incorporated the comments, if there's any other further tweaks or refinements, and I want to say thank you for all the comments, I really appreciate it, and thank you for, some of you drafted questions that I used, and sometimes I shortened it, but, they were all very helpful, so thank you. There was, at the outset, when we were kind of gathering, there was the discussion on the beginnings of a discussion, well, how do we distribute it? So when I draft surveys, I always do it on paper or, and so that can be emailed or, in print. But I intend to use, survey software where I use Survey Gizmo, which is very similar to, Survey Monkey. So that the survey can be done on someone's phone, it can be done on their laptop or their, pad or desktop computer, whatever digital device they tend to use. I can generate a QR code, so I think that might help with, distributing it if you wanted to do it through the Scoop or any other print media. I was also anticipating that there be a link so people can just click on it if you're sending it out digitally. It occurs to me that I might need to put a bit.ly link in to make it short, so in case someone has to retype it, which I'm happy to do. But just so, and I think it's always helpful, some people still prefer paper over digital means to, do both. So if you wanna have paper copies at town hall or at the library or any other location, I'm comfortable with that, and then we can gather them and then add it, compile it and incorporate it in the digital results, so everything will be in one, reported
One
as a
spot,
whole.
awesome.
So no response, whether it's on paper or online, will get left out. I talked to Rusty before today, and Rusty's willing to make, do a flyer, and help, put that out on all the town's social media. But I also think it helps to talk up doing the survey, so when, with friends and neighbors in Whately. There was some suggestion that maybe we should get input from people who may spend time in Whately or be interested in Whately Center, but may not live in, directly in Whately. Which I find, and that's why on question 3, it's like, where do you live? In a nearby town or, Whately. I really see Whately as the primary audience, but we're providing an option based on feedback from last meeting. So that's kind of how I see the rollout. I know the Scoop deadline, I think is Friday. Is it, or
The third,
The third, next Wednesday.
the 3rd, okay.
and
Well,
we have Judy did a great job, she's drafted something for us to get the word out there that we can look at.
well, we can generate the QR code and link all this week's,
Yeah.
assuming if there's any other feedback. Happy to incorporate.
Since we agreed to it, what do you think the time frame is for setting up? The information and trying to wait for response. What's that time frame? Do you have an idea of what that?
Oh, like how long the survey will be open?
Yeah.
Let's start.
I hadn't given it any thought. I was gonna ask you
I
guys.
think it helps on the flyer to have a deadline, because some of us are deadline people, and it's like, you might put it off, and it's like, if you know the deadline, you get it done, so you want enough time to get it out, but you don't want to have a long period of time, because then people will put it out and forget about it. So I generally think about 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks at most. It might be helpful. We're meeting on September 24th. It might be helpful to have the deadline.
Be the 23rd,
Well, I would,
is that too soon?
We just
Well,
picked
let me ask
I
you
don't even
this,
know when
let's,
it's going
Yeah.
out, so
Yeah,
you might wanna do it more like the 22nd. Is there a select board meeting that week on Monday? The only reason I'm saying is that might be an opportunity to remind people who might be listening online to don't forget to get out your survey. Or if there's
we
any,
get a robocall too. Um. In addition, as a reminder,
Reminder call.
yeah. Um. The 23rd, 27th of September,
Yeah,
when are we talking about having this out? The deadline for the scoop is the 3rd, when will we actually get it in our mailboxes?
She'll do the.
So, I have a couple questions. Is the expectation that we're sending out the survey to everybody? Or that we are making it available to folks?
What it sounds like is that we're gonna make it available through anything that needs to be sent out online and even delivery if necessary,
Okay.
so we can blanket as many opportunities
Okay,
research as possible. But
yeah, and maybe with thinking about the delay in terms of, you know, if the deadline's the 3rd, give people like, you know, it's probably not gonna get out until at least the 8th.
Right, that's,
No, she won't.
oh, yeah, it's.
So maybe we
She
could
takes it to the
say,
post office on the following
The
one.
deadline for this is the 3rd, whatever descriptive thing we want to put about the survey in the
Yes.
scoop. If we are putting a survey itself in the scoop, which I didn't realize had a cost, so that's a separate piece to discuss. The deadline for that would be the folding date. So that would be later.
I think that we would likely only have our article advertisement in the scoop. I don't see us putting the whole survey in there.
That's what it came before.
Oh, that's how you guys did it before,
It's-
okay, I wasn't aware of that,
There are often additions in the scoop
okay.
from the Historic Society.
Yeah.
From whatever,
Hazardous waste day. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
delivered a bunch of them during one update or a bunch of.
yeah, so that's an additional mechanism, but did we do it in the scoop that time?
Because
too?
that's how I got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so can we start with that decision? Do we put the whole survey in the scoop in addition to an article?
Yeah, I mean, it's not my decision to make, whatever.
Do you have any budget?
So I have. In community development, I have $3,000 a year for everything that I do.
You're probably talking under $100.
Yeah, okay, so that sounds doable to me, I don't see how $100, like. that sounds
Maybe, I
doable.
don't know, but it's not.
we then need, if it's being mailed, which on one level, I think that gives nice distribution. Where are people gonna drop off, or are they gonna mail back their survey? There's a value of seeing it, I would still like to encourage people to do digital responses, because then my office has less data entry to do. But I have no objection to it being mailed, because I'm comfortable, because some people prefer print, but we've gotta figure out. We've gotta tell people in the scoop where to drop it off or where to mail it to.
Yeah,
Well, right. But we do that for any paper copies. And I would suggest the transfer center, the library here. And
For drop off, you mean?
for drop off. Are there other,
can you say those 4 places again?
said 3 here, town offices, the transfer center, the library?
Okay,
Kind of assuming we can't do post office, but any of the post offices. Maybe we can do town hall, I don't know.
It's locked usually.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering.
Very often.
Other, if there are other places, unless we ask a place like Muffins to read it.
I think 3 is sufficient.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't think there needs to be a whole barrage.
so what I'm hearing is. We'd like to put the survey into the scoop. I didn't catch whether we decided if we were going to mail physical copies of the survey out or not.
If that
We
is,
said yes,
that
we
is
did
good.
wanna do
the
that.
scoop does
The
that.
scoop does that.
The
The
scoop
scoop is mailed to everyone.
Okay, so that is how we're gonna handle it being mailed. People can drop them off at the transfer center, library, or town offices.
It's
If we were, possibly this here, if we were to put an article, a small, short article in Scoop describing what we're doing. And also put bit.ly link and the, you see or whatever that thing is, you said that's really QR code there. Add that to it, so anybody who wasn't or was reticent to be able to do anything in paper form and didn't have time to go deliver it, they could, if they're so inclined, they could also address it through. I think that's what we did something to that effect last time.
Yeah.
And it was very effective. We got online
Really good.
approaches and we got paper copies back as well.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great to me.
Rusty, I think you could set up a link at Whately.org instead of a Bitly link.
Yeah, sure, yeah, that's fine.
Just say Whately.org/CS survey or something.
Yeah, we can do that.
Well, this is moving along nicely.
That's because none of us have to do it.
Alrighty, so we've talked a little bit about distribution. We're using the scoop. We'd like a robocall put out to let people know. The scoop is gonna mail it out to people. People are gonna drop them off in person at the transfer center, library, or town offices. We'll have a web page so people can engage with it there. In the scoop, in our article, there will be a QR code and the physical website link, so people can either scan the QR code or type in the website link and they can access the survey that way. Does that feel like a fair and true summary of what we've just discussed?
We would also be posting in 3 different locations, notices.
Notices, yes, posting notices.
Those could go at more locations.
Yeah.
Like the post office.
Right.
Well, not the post office, but
There's still people putting notices.
I was just saying, don't they have a bulletin?
Yeah, please something.
okay.
Add those.
Okay,
And can I just check? Can we decide that there will be a drop off at the transfer station?
I'd have to ask.
Or your office, can there be an envelope at the door
Okay, sure.
that you run?
Yeah.
So at least we know that location.
Yeah, so-
And we'll-
When I'm talking about
Fine.
this stuff right now, this stuff happening is pursuant to me talking to these people and going, hey, this is what we're planning on doing, is that all right? And they go, yes, that's all right, because I am, of course, not the authority on many of these places. But yes, assuming that the transfer center, and I know that Cynthia's not gonna have a problem with the library,
Right,
but
that's why I asked about the transfer
Yeah,
center. And we
that
know
one,
there's not gonna be a problem here, because
Probably
we've done it.
fortunate.
yeah. All right, awesome. Do we have other questions, concerns, or
We're
comments?
Still timing.
Oh,
Deadline.
yes, the timing window.
The holding or the assembly of the scoop is usually the Sunday after deadline,
Mhm.
which we get in the mail the next day, so it won't get to people. Probably till Wednesday, till the following Wednesday.
With a deadline of the 3rd.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it'll probably get in people's hands by the 10th, so.
So this in the scoop for the 3rd, the folding on the 7th.
Why don't we make the deadline September 30th, because that just kind of feels the, it gives you that 3 weeks. I can give the committee a preliminary report on the 25th as to how many responses we've gotten, at least digitally.
At that point, I can update on physical responses as well.
Yeah, and so we can have a sense, and we can also figure out what we need to do to make a final push. But I think it would help if, this committee or the select board or the historical society and committee, announce it at their meetings and kind of help with it. Yeah, remind people.
And maybe a robocall the week of the 22nd.
Yeah,
Now, I'm not available to revise the draft, so I hope somebody else will.
Yes. This draft.
alrighty, are there any more questions, comments, concerns around the distribution and advertising of the survey? I'm taking that as a no. Oh, we have Mike Mitchell in the waiting room, I hope I haven't been keeping waiting. So let me put him up on the screen for us here. Hey, Mike, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Awesome. It's great to be meeting with you. How have you been?
Pretty good. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you so much for the structural engineering report. We got to take a look at it this morning, and I'm gonna pass it over to you and Kathy to fill us in.
Hi, Mitch, and I'll just do some do you wanna do some opening comments or, because Rusty, I sent it to Rusty first thing this morning before I saw your email, so there was a little minor edit.
It's been made in the copies that were handed out to the boards. There are no errors in the copy that the board has.
So I don't know if you wanna make any opening comments about it.
I mean, if you haven't read it, I'm basically saying in the report that the buildings structurally, not in terrible shape, but definitely has some issues that it should be taken care of, starting with the roof. If you want to keep this thing in good condition for refinishing later, I think the roof is the priority.
Great, you made a plan for that while you were in your other meeting, so good, you're on the same page.
So I think one of the key things Mitch found is that in terms of the, you've got approximately 2,000 square feet on 2,400 square feet on the, first floor. But thinking about the attic as usable occupiable space, Mitch's recommendation from a structural engineering perspective is that does not have the structural support for either storage or live load usage. So while you can stand up in the attic, it's, it's fine that we've gone up and visited, but if people were living there or if people were, using it actively, that's probably not a good idea. You want?
Yeah, it could possibly be done, but the issue is that truss isn't really a fully designed truss. It's something kind of an archaic truss. The connections are not gonna work. I don't think the way we would intend them to per code these days. They obviously work for what's there, but to load rate them is gonna be difficult at best. Essentially, you'd be redesigning and reanalyzing the whole truss and roof system, so I mean, there's no guarantee it works. It may work with additional strengthening. I don't know if that's a direction we'd wanna go in, but it's possible. It's just with what's there and what I saw is not a good idea to use it as is.
I think that's a good point. So when I said that, based on the structural engineering letter, that's based on current conditions. Money can always do a lot of things. So yeah, could you upgrade the structural level for the attic possibly? And it's a question then of trade-offs and how much money it costs. So I'm not gonna say no, but there's a cost to it.
But I know some about construction, but I don't have the language totally down. What are the trusses?
It was like the metal part that is kind of in the center that. holds it together.
I'll let Mitch,
Yeah, the trusses are, there's two of them up in the attic. They run over I wouldn't say the center of the classrooms. They run between the inner two windows, and post down at the brick at the exterior wall. And then we didn't observe a post on the inside because this finish is in the way, but I believe that there may be a post in there holding them up. They're pretty archaic. They don't look like they were designed by any kind of engineer. I don't think they did that level of design at that time. But there's two of them and they hold the ceiling joist, which span, if you're looking at the front of the building, they're holding joists that span left, right, and the trusses run from front to back of the building. And they support the roof and they support the attic floor.
So doing the masonry tear on the bottom of the roof rafters doesn't. How much does that address this concern?
The masonry,
You're talking about the connections on the top of the roof joists, right? That's what the trusses are doing? No. Okay, up here. Yeah. I've got Kara trying to picture.
See, this is,
They're all pictures.
we're lucky we got him here.
the building inspector guy is here, Mitch, so.
This is Garrett Berry, our building superintendent. He's gonna be coordinating a lot of our repairs and things, and so he's giving us a quick lesson about roofs.
What a trussage.
And the reason I'm asking is because we had been told previously that the brick surround on the base of the attic, that work was significant to supporting the roof.
You need to have buildings with a bottom up. You
Yeah.
need to have a strong structure here. Here, so that's masonry work, it's right here.
Yeah.
Right there. It has to support that whole roof
Right,
on this is the truss. Higher, and this stonework here is set on this. So if this isn't good, that's not going on.
right, but so my question is, if the masonry is good, how much does that address the concern Mike's raising about the trusses?
Is it, or is it good? It's the question.
It's not good
It's not-
now, but
That's when she's talking.
She's asking if the masonry were fixed,
Could you get,
does that enhance the structural stability?
right, because we've been going on the assumption that the masonry needed to be fixed.
Well, masonry does need to be fixed, because it's part of your building, your building envelope, as what we would call it in construction.
Right, but I don't mean just the periphery, we mean.
Yeah,
Specifically the
yes.
masonry in the attic,
In
which
the
is
attic
unusual.
is part of that, but and Mitch, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like the masonry and the walls are kind of doing a perimeter support. But then you also need, the existing wood flooring is almost like a deck that's not attached to firmly attached to the edges. And there's only limited structural support for that area. So it doesn't have the benefit
So we're supporting the roof, but
exterior
the floor
framing
is the
as
problem.
well as the, traditional load support.
it wasn't designed, it wasn't
Right.
designed.
It's almost like a podium, you know, it's almost like a table podium and then you have a frame around it.
It was designed to be an attic.
Exactly, right,
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
Some attics, I've been in enough buildings where some attics are attached and there is structural support, but there's no, you know. So
Okay.
did I explain that okay?
for the most part, I think, yeah. I guess as far as the masonry is concerned with the truss, there's really not a huge relationship there. The masonry is plenty strong vertically to support the truss pretty much anywhere. The masonry issues are sort of separate from the structural issues. I think, well, some of them play together. But one of the recommendations that I had in my report was basically to repoint the building. It's more for water, intrusion. You don't want bad mortar joints in the wall in general. It's a like maintenance item. It's expected on buildings like this. The issues with the masonry walls really has to do with, I believe it's the southwest corner. Where you can see that the top two courses separated from the lower portion of the wall. It's not 100% clear what happened there. I have some thoughts on it. I put them in the memo. It's possible that one side of the truss is settled somewhat, creating a kickout force at the top of the wall, just due to the configuration of the geometry. It's also possible that the roof framing or the trusses, the beams supporting the rafters there are a little undersized, causing them to sag and put some lateral force onto the top of the wall that would cause it to want to slide outwards. I've never seen it, something where the two courses separate like that. It must have been a really weak mortar joint. There's no other way I can see how this would have occurred. But yeah, as far as supporting the truss, the masonry doesn't really have any issue doing that. That answers that question.
And yeah, I know all of you've been, I think all of you've been in the building.
I think everybody but Garrett were with us, or with us.
And I think the other, another key finding is the live load support for the first floor is sufficient for residential, but may need some reinforcement for light commercial. So that's from my perspective, a budget item.
Is office space considered, light commercial? Or office space, is there a difference between office space and residential spaces, floor load?
Office space is a little bit more than, well, office space is generally 50 pounds per square foot. Residential first floor is 40, sleeping areas is 30. So I did a quick load rating on what was shown in the existing drawings that, was sent to me, the blueprints. Based on what they have for information, I was seeing that you could get the 40 PSF live load to work. You'd have to make some provisions if you're going to build partitions on there. The code generally says to hold 15 PSF for partitions, but that's for a typical typical building you'd see nowadays. The code used to be 20. I would conservatively hold 20 since the walls are tall. And I don't know what kind of configuration you're gonna have. So you had capacity for the walls and the live load for residential on the first floor based on the information I got. For office, like I said, it's 50, then you're gonna add the 20. It may work. I didn't check it for office specifically, but in general for light commercial is generally around 100 PSF, 80 to 100. That would most likely require some kind of resupport of the floor joist at the center. I believe the span at the front of the building had a decent capacity there where the stairs are, but under the classrooms, you'd probably need a beam under the two spans for each classroom. So 4 beams and some columns.
For curiosity, how much would that reduce the headspace in the basement?
I don't think it would reduce it any more really than it is because there's already a beam there. So the new beam would probably be similar depth to the old beam.
Is there any way, out of curiosity, is there any way of supporting that truss so the upstairs did hold 40 pounds?
It's possible, like I said, those connections that I saw at the top of the truss, they're not locked in. If you look closely at them, they're shimmed. I don't know why whoever built it shimmed it, but that's not a good way to to make that connection. It's all being held together by one bolt. Then the other issue is we didn't have any finishes removed, so a lot of time in archaic construction, the lower member may be notched. Sometimes you would key the joist into the girder. And that's generally something you can't really do or shouldn't be doing. I just had to deal with this on another historic building where those notch connections just don't work. I'm not saying that's what's there, but there's a good chance that that's what you're gonna uncover under the floorboards. And that would all have to be strengthened, rectified, and all those joists would likely need to be resupported. It's doable, but you might end up having to build a truss on the outside of the truss that's, structurally correct in order to do that.
You were saying that the sleeping zone or sleeping area is what, 40 pounds per square foot?
Sleeping area for residential is generally 30.
30.
But you
It
still
would
consider,
satisfy 30 pounds per square foot then in any way, shape, or form. Is what you're saying?
what was that? I missed that.
I was just saying, if it's 30 pounds per square foot, the third floor or the attic wouldn't support 30 pounds per square foot in any way, shape, or form without significant addressing.
I can't certify the truss without inspecting the whole thing. If it's not uncovered and I can't see it, I can't really load rate it. So at this point, I would not recommend using it. If you wanted to do some destructive investigation, it could be something we could look at feasibility of.
Right. I'm having some trouble hearing.
Yeah, let me see.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Blast everybody out of your heads.
You're hard to hear too.
So you're,
Yeah. Yeah, you are
Oh.
outspoken. Mike, can you repeat what you said?
Sorry, yeah, can you hear me better now?
Let me see if I can get some more volume over here.
I can put on a headset and see if that works better.
Is that any help? I think I've got it.
Yeah, it's fine, I can hear it, okay.
Is this any better?
Oh, that's clearer. That's awesome.
Clear, yeah.
All right. So as far as that truss goes, without doing a little bit more investigation, I don't know if I could even load rate it. The bolts, the connections at the corners of the truss aren't really something that you can put a rating on. So it's possible, but a lot of time, like the best way to find out is to pull the floor off and look at all the connections and see if it works. But I just have a feeling based on experience that you may run into issues that may not allow it to work well. I mean, you can try anything, I guess, but I can't really guarantee it's going to work if you do all the work to open it up and look at it. It does work as a ceiling. It's never really been occupied. I don't have an issue leaving it the way it was, but to change the use of it would require a bit more analysis and review of existing construction.
Can we do that? How hard is it to do more analysis?
The analysis isn't all that difficult, but like I said, I'd want to see how those joists, the ceiling joists, are connected to the bottom core of the truss. I'd want to see how the joints look where the diagonal members come back down into the truss, see if they have failed. There's nothing that's saying they did, but I can't see, what the connections look like. It's covered by floorboards and underneath is a ceiling.
Eric, how accessible can we make what he needs to see?
Some holes in the floor.
You do first, but it's possible.
Well, and there's also the question of, if further analysis is done. What's the price tag look like on that? Is that something that would be included in what we're doing, which I'm not sure it would be.
It's not included in the current proposal. But, Mitch and I can talk and I can get a more
I would say a
detailed
quote would be
cost so
great.
that you all can consider it. And then we can figure out a strategy from there.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that we're in a particular hurry, but if we start doing any work on the building. That would be the time to know if we're going to try and deal with the attic, and it'd be a shame to not bother to find out.
What the state of things is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
agree.
this is also why I always like when you're doing a feasibility study, especially on an older building, to do some structural analysis, because you never know what you're gonna find.
Right.
And it's always. I don't always let the news, but it's better to know, because then you can make contingency plans and that type of.
Right, and like a daycare center, for example, which somebody at one point had proposed, is that the same rating for the attic as?
I think that the weight limits are the same. When you get to things like daycare, that's when you have to worry about like lead abatement and other types of hazard mitigation. So that's just, that's my 2 cents in terms of that.
A childcare center would not be the same.
Oh, it's
code
not.
As it would be closer to low limits for schools
Low limits, okay.
as compared to residential. And I'm
Is that
deferring to
question
you,
more?
Mitch, because I'm not, I clearly, this is outside my primary focus and expertise.
But is that
Others
less or
talking
more?
pianos and,
Yeah, if you've got, it's one thing to do a family daycare center, which is, 5 or fewer kids. Which used to be a large family, but if you have like 12 kids all jumping up and down,
Right.
which is not unlikely, and then to have at least 2 or 3 adults. You're getting.
Yeah, we're more than a single senior
Yeah, I mean,
apartment.
we've all seen in the newspaper or on the news accidents about porches falling down, this or that, because someone had a party and, there were 10, 15 people on the porch.
Right.
Or deck or whatever.
It happened in a frat house at UMass when I went to UMass, so like it happens to houses.
No, I know it happens, and you're exactly right, this is why doing this now in
Yeah.
conjunction with the feasibility was important.
there's $1,500 more CPA. Structural engineering. Bucket.
Well, my only concern is, before we go further in discussing this report, I would like to actually read it. Which I haven't done.
Well,
Yeah.
because I just got it,
I
and
know,
this meeting, I figured we take advantage.
I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying, I don't feel in a position to really
No.
judge it or.
Yeah, and to that point, is there a summary of, so this is a big piece of news that is new. Is there anything else in this report, which I haven't read either?
I can
which
give you
is-
my highlights. I did have a chance to go over it real quick. So, like we said, the framing may be undersized for this structure. A lot of it is a description of the stuff that we physically saw and that Mitch pointed out to us while we were there. So a lot of it is that, the load analysis, I think something important about the report is that this is all an estimate, because Mitch was very limited in not only what he could see, but in the previous documents that we could give him. So it warns us not to take these numbers as like as a sure thing. The conclusions and recommendations to prevent further deterioration of this building, Pear recommends immediate repair to the roof. And then roof leaks and water will accelerate decay of the structure. The considerations for reuse, what I took from it was that unchanged as it is now, the attic is not recommended to be used. The first floor is recommended for reuse, especially if we are able to have the framing checked and have it bolstered, have sistering of the joists and things. And then the basement was recommended for reuse after moisture abatement. So those I think are the really big important points from this report.
Would you concur, Mitch, or anything else you want to add?
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I'm wary of using the attic for anything without further investigation. The floor is fine, the basement. Once you figure out where the water's coming from and you can mitigate that issue, I don't see any reason why you can't reuse it.
And
It does limit us as to 2 floors at this point, without any further investigation of the attic.
Louder,
What's that?
louder.
Oh, I'm sorry, I get yelled at for talking too loud. So,
I can hear you just fine.
At least I can hear a pin drop in the side of Whately, so I gotta be careful. Where was I? So we have 2 floors that we can use theoretically, with some work. The attic is a question, possibility with your concern that it may not be feasible. But if we're gonna be doing any investigations to fix the first floor to make sure that it meets the requirements, would it be that far of a move to check the attic as well? That Michael? Did you?
We could do it. It's a bit more effort because you're gonna have to remove a little bit more finishes because all the connections have to be reviewed for that truss. Make sure that, there's a plate washer underneath the hanger rods, and we got to check and see if that lower cord member is notched, which would be an issue. We could look into it a little further. I just don't know based on experience if it's worth it, or if you want to just consider building a new truss somehow or retrofitting it right from the beginning. I mean, once we look at the truss, we're going to have to just take a look when we do a load analysis, look it down to the basement too, and kind of open, making sure there's a post in that wall like we assume there is. See if there's actually a footing underneath it. It's possible there's nothing there. I don't know. Older buildings with no documentation are kind of hard in that respect.
You have to get an estimate of how much this is gonna be.
I think we did this part, we're gonna look at some order of magnitude cost estimates, and as I mentioned at the last meeting, as we look at feasibility. I'm going to use a cost estimator to also look, provide. Conceptual level cost. So you'll
so
get
like
some,
getting
you'll have some ranges.
so like getting an estimate of what doing a new truss would cost.
I think it's more order of magnitude on that at this point, so. Mitch, Mitch said he'd do order of magnitude costs, but also as part of the feasibility study, looking at it. Once we have some concept plans using cost estimator, and that would also include some of the structural work.
Another consideration that I think you should bear in mind in terms of using the attic is access. And it's not so much, it's a dangerous access as it is now. And any solution to access is probably going to adversely affect the historic values of the main floor, which is the way you get from to the attic. So it could be that from a historical standpoint, historical integrity is going to be a hard to solve solution.
Well, I have, my other colleague, Sam Dennis with Platt Anderson Freeman, who was on the site visit with us, is a preservation architect, and I think he indicated to me he was waiting for Mitch's report, but we want to know what kind of uses, which is why we want to look at the survey. But I think he's developed a couple different
Okay.
concepts for access, and they've done, that's their practice, is historic buildings, so. But I share your concern.
It's a consideration.
It's a good reminder, yeah.
Is there enough space on that first floor to put a residence or on its own? You know, think, if, I'm carrying the fact that I have an opportunity to go through this yet, but if I understand correctly, you were considering that one, there are two commercial spaces, one residential space, if I understand it correctly.
Well, we've kind of left it open, I mean, could probably fit at least 2 residential on the ground level, on the first floor, but you know, I think I've also heard that people want to look at a mix of uses. And there were a lot of ideas from before the pandemic about whether it's a cafe or some kind of, you know, community gathering space or you know, place where people can gather, do things, whether it's some arts and culture space, whether it's maker space, you know, whether it's some kind of postal facility, all of the above. So I think that's still an open question, and I'm interested in seeing what people have to say, including all of you. But I think getting a pulse on what residents feel might be helpful as well. And also wanting to look at market conditions. I mean, we know there's a housing crisis in Massachusetts, but that doesn't, you know, we've got to look at what the financial cost of each use is and what the market is and how the dollars and cents all work. And historic tax credits might be important to that, I would say will probably be important, not might, to making it financially viable.
Which is where the historic integrity becomes a issue.
Can we go, can we be done with Mike's report and go back to the survey and the announcement of the survey?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Mike, thank you so much for being with us today. We very much appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Name is Mike, or is it Mitch?
Oh,
I've been calling him bitch. I think that's my fault.
Either one. I work with a guy, Mike as well, and we're always confused, so I just go by my last name.
Uh,
so how do you introduce yourself?
Mike usually, if he's not
Okay.
around. It's fine. Either one,
So,
either one. I'll
okay.
answer. All right. Well, thanks.
yeah, let's talk about this survey here for a minute.
Thank you.
All right,
Good job. Working our comment.
absolutely.
We got one response from somebody, I sent the first to the members of the Center School Visioning Committee, one, basically, who beyond the 3 of us that have stayed on, and we just got some comments back from somebody, so there was one note that the zip code, is that where people pick up their mail, or is that what's intended?
I believe we're looking for the zip code of where they live, their house.
And that, is that clear to people? Because wasn't clear to Brett.
We can, yeah.
Is it people's mailing address, or is everybody 01093?
Well, everybody is going to be over 09. They won't. No.
They won't be.
That's why there's confusion.
Also, they're not,
I'll let you do.
well, one thing is this is over by September 30th, and that wasn't gonna happen until January 1st anyway. The other is that the post office.
Yeah, I don't wanna open that discussion. I just,
Okay. So current status will be the status for the next 2 months.
Right, what's your zip, how do you answer the question, what's your zip code?
01066. Or 01093, either way.
That's it's the either way we wanna fix with the question.
If we can have a street, it doesn't have to be a street address, it just has to be a street.
What's your like street name?
That,
I did have that concern, but I wasn't sure how to resolve. I looked at the map,
that's,
Why does it matter where in Whately you live?
where it matters, if I can jump in, as to the probability if somebody is in East Whately and they're farthest East Whately and they have no concerns over it, and obviously that the demographic that's going to be utilizing the space may be West Whately. And it'd be important with the, if somebody, if the approach is to try to unite East and West Whately at its best option. It'd be nice to know how many people in East Whately and how many people in West Whately have the same interest.
So. About East Whately, West Whately, Whately Center.
is that a better question than your zip code? I mean, it doesn't pull in the people from other towns,
So, yes, that option before.
right? But the concern is that there are people who have two answers to what their zip code is, right?
Yes. I do.
Well, it's an open-ended question, so people can put both if they feel like that.
But it doesn't give us any information.
Right.
I think we don't want it to be open-ended. I think we want to be,
You want there to be multiple choices?
No.
no,
They
we
don't
want
want
to
to.
know,
How was it handled in this report? Because as I recall, that was one of the,
West and Center.
yeah.
well, that makes sense.
I think we don't want people who have a non 01093 zip code to choose 01093 here.
It
Right.
provides us a false narrative, so we don't really
Yes.
get
Well,
clear.
maybe the way to say it is, what is your present zip code?
Now that tell me.
No, because the present zip code is 2 zip codes still.
Many people.
No, it's not, no, people may perceive they have 2 zip codes, but they really only have 1 according to US.
But the perception is how they're gonna answer the question.
Kathy, I have a post office box. My mailing address is 01093.
Okay.
Official. Anything delivered to my house
Is a different.
is.
And then I bet everybody
So-
has.
But it's where you live.
It's,
Where you live, yeah. If you're gonna do one, it would be where you live.
We could say the zip code of your home.
East
East Whately, yeah, I think that's right.
You really have,
Okay, so
because some of the zip codes stretch quite a ways for the people's homes, stretch quite a ways into West Whately,
okay,
because they
Yeah, I
have to
think-
pick up their mail.
Kathy. I'm curious how essential you find the neighborhood question generally.
I think it was, we have both questions 1 and 2. I usually only use one of them. I usually only use what is the zip code. So,
Okay.
because many towns only have 1 zip code, or a neighborhood only has 1 zip code. You have the unique challenge of having multiple zip codes, so,
Fine.
so I think we're struggling with that.
Yeah.
So I was more interested in, like, what town do you live in?
Yeah,
If you wanna know what part of Whately people live in, knowing what zip code gives you some sense of geography.
yeah,
Not perfectly, because Judy pointed out that people might put where they pick up their mail as compared to where they live. Because there's both options.
Kathy may not realize the extent to which there's sort of a cultural identity in those 3 Yeah, it's,
I
it's
think,
like South Boston.
I think,
I think you're Southie.
Right,
right, I think the question that some of us are trying to target is how is divisions, is there a correlation between somebody saying retaining the historic character of Whately Center to Simcoe, to living in the town center? That we're exploring the idea if, can we get East Whately residents and West Whately residents on the same page on certain issues?
So
And
maybe-
if we're not, can we recognize that so that we can then talk about how to address it?
so maybe we ask, what section of Whately do you live in? Whately Center, West Whately,
Yes.
East Whately?
I moved that.
If I could jump in here real quick, and I think you solved our problem long before we even started it. Is in this thing that you wrote about the post office, which is brilliant, by the way, you put this map in there.
Oh, that'd be great.
And if we could have that map added to that. And then this way folks can
Yeah.
refer to this map when they answer that question.
I think
Exactly
that
what
would be
it is.
really helpful.
The only thing I question on this is I had looked on the website and I think, on the USPS website, and I think it gives us something for Williamsburg as well. But this should accompany somebody who was using a Williamsburg post office, like for me, I'm somewhere between 9-3 and 7-3. I know I'm in the 9-3 area, although this being a very small map doesn't show me that. But it narrows down our options to your regional location of your home.
Yeah,
And even if you're
agree.
getting something from Williamsburg, you're still in the 01039 area, you can use that. That might solve our problem right there.
Yeah, so to summarize, it sounds like we want that to be a multiple choice question with the choices being east, west, and center. And that we would like to insert that map so people know if
I
they're
would
east,
use
west,
the
or
zip
center.
codes in that map, so
Yeah.
there's three.
It's 3993 and 73.
Okay, so we can do zip codes and map and that solves the issue.
Yeah,
Okay, zip codes and map.
can I get a copy? Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I can also send you the digital copy.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. This was a helpful discussion. I think that was, we're coming to a good resolution.
awesome.
Another question about the survey is, and it kind of relates to question 4, is, are we looking for are we looking for one response per household or any number of responses?
It says check all that apply.
That's not,
For question 4,
question 4 might lead someone to think that they're doing it for their household, they're doing the survey for
Oh.
their household. And I don't know if that's our intention. Are we looking for all 4 people in your household to answer this, to do their own survey? We just should decide and clarify.
Even if there's multiple people in responding for a household, like, 2 spouses. Or, maybe a young person, and I would encourage that because people may have very different perspectives. But it also tells us a little bit more about who's responding. So having some sense of demographics is helpful. So I don't view this as kind of saying that, this is just one response per household. I would not make that assumption based on this question. We could clarify that in introduction,
That's what I think we need to do it. Because I just think we need to say, we want as many responses as possible from all Whately residents of all ages and our neighbors. Something like that.
So in the very beginning, introduction, not an introduction to this question.
Yes. Yeah,
I think. It's an easy one. Question 5, the last one about a blue boat. The zoning won't permit a blue boat anywhere. A pump maybe, but not a blue boat. So the difference.
Water.
Brewing on site.
Well,
Brewing on site.
I think it might be useful to explore.
Because we can recommend changes to zoning. if
Because you
that's
can
what
always
people want.
recommend a zoning change.
I. We do attempt that.
The problem with the brew pub is where do you use a lot of water.
Yeah.
If you don't have a big enough septic system to be able to reclaim that water. That's probably one of the reasons why that was put in there, because we don't have, if we had public septic, then it would be sure that we could dump it.
Okay. So do we want to strike that part completely, that section? Or do we want to change it to just say pub,
Say,
just say pub?
public house.
But
sounds better. Check it.
How about
You're
pub and eatery?
acceptable. We don't need you for that.
Thank you, Eric. So nice to meet you.
Um.
I think people have an image of brew pubs. They have an image of pubs, which is sometimes very different. But sometimes. And because I think what people might say, a pub like in Ireland or England is different than what people think of a pub in the US. So I'm wondering if it's would a place where people could stop and have both non-alcoholic and alcoholic beverages to visit or be, you know, pub is nice and short and I like succinct, but I think a brew pub, people think of people gathering and it's more, and it's as much social as, drinking. Whereas I think pub, people perceive as, that's like a bar, tavern, you know.
yeah, I would think give that up.
Yeah.
When I say brew pub, I think, oh, that's just a place where they have beer. And then I think of a pub, I think of mixed drinks, I think of a gathering.
Okay, well, that's helpful to hear.
I agree, if we're from then beer to me.
Okay.
It's a brewery.
If you look it up, parts of them.
Well, no, I think you're probably accurate, I'm just, yeah, maybe. So just take the word brew off, brew out of pub and see what we get. Okay,
Yeah. My only question is. Does the Whately Inn not react to this as we have a hub in Whately Center?
Well, they do have a park.
I don't know. It's very well lit, it's my windows.
Well, the same is true with the restaurant too. I mean, it's,
or should we say another restaurant? Oh, so it's not, you know, I
think that we're unnecessarily putting blinders on. And what we're asking people is, what would you like to see go in this building? And if we say, well, we couldn't possibly do that because the Whately Inn is nearby and all that. I think it's, we're throwing out options that should be presented.
We don't wanna put out options that are less likely, I guess, is what I was thinking of it. I do agree that go really in right there, and I'm sure that they would appreciate. Extra company down the road taking some of the business, although they also drive business as well. Really is very popular. It does bring in a lot of people, so anything that. This establishment would benefit by. The additional traffic, helping. But it wouldn't want to take away. Business from an already established business in town. So I would think so.
There's another issue, and I don't know how to quantify it, but. For this to be attractive for a business person to take one up on. There would need to be enough parking.
Yeah,
The zoning waives the. The required parking, but the business would have to see that there's enough places for.
Oh, sure. No,
Well,
And
it's
some of
somebody,
these are kind of marginal.
Yeah.
but. There's the exact same public parking that the Whately Inn uses. That is not their parking.
Terrible.
Town hall and in front of the library, those places get.
Others, yeah.
Used and,
People are lazy.
but,
No,
you know,
as I say, I can't quantify
Right.
it, I don't know what the limits are, but it's something we should keep.
yeah,
Cause it has to, whatever we pick, has to make sense,
Yeah.
two ways.
yeah,
Well, it would also have to make sense. I mean, if someone were going to come in with a proposal for a restaurant, they would be the ones who would urgently need to know, is there a way to get parking here? It's on the, what is it a 2-acre parcel?
No, it's 3/4 of an acre.
It looks bigger than it is,
We seem to have that,
because there's right of way that's included in the green grassy area.
it's not a full acre.
Yeah, okay.
we did have the estimate of 10 spaces easily and. Your guy did that parking plan,
That's what I'm asking, but. Yeah, but if it's one of many uses.
I'm gonna put my downtown or town center hat on. One of the things when I work with town centers and downtown is you really gotta think about parking for the whole center as a whole, not on a parcel by parcel basis. Because one of the center is really special about Whately Center, in addition to the historic character and the fabulous views, is you have sidewalks on both sides.
It's
one-
beautiful
Yeah, we do.
pedestrian access,
Yeah.
all right?
Yeah,
Like,
now we do.
my city doesn't look like that.
It's really kind of special and it makes Whately Center special. So it's not unreasonable to expect people to,
Yeah, sure.
have some spaces. But, you do have town hall, you have behind the post office, you have the library.
Yeah.
Why pave more areas? Think of it as, a group. As a whole, and you've already got. The town's already invested in public parking, so during,
Good.
because parking requirements.
It's also a great way to break up the fabric of a downtown. That's how it was described to me when I was in college, is that, having high requirements or desiring high amounts of on-street or parking lots. It increases the distance people have to walk, it changes what people are seeing, and it can discourage people from continuing their walk into a downtown. So I really agree with you, Kathy. I think that, while parking might be something that developers are considering, I think it's really on us to prioritize.
Most developers will gladly, provide less parking.
Right.
It's usually municipal parking requirements that require more parking than is really actually necessary.
Okay, well then,
Because parking costs money to paving costs. So let's look at figuring out the use and what is reasonable parking, reasonable to expect parking. Any commercial use, there's gonna be sometimes when there may be someone who has to, park, down the street a little and have to walk, because they don't, unless you wanna pave the whole corner.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of thinking about what uses. I mean, even if you had a coffee shop or a, maker space. Maybe it's only a couple of users at any one given time, but there may be events or maybe occasions when it's busier, so you may have 10 or 12 cars.
Okay. We're ready to move on to other pieces.
If I could for something.
Okay.
One of the things that keeps haunting me with this is that anything that we put in here, any of the applicants are going to assume that they're possible. And they may not. And that's the thing that's been haunting me. So is a community center possible? Is it feasible? Is it viable? Can we do that? And if all of a sudden you have the whole of, say, the Whately Center saying, yeah, that's exactly what we need, can we actually do it?
So is there anything that should come out because it doesn't look feasible?
I mean, consider we can't use the upstairs, we got the first floor, we got the basement. Our parking is questionable to some degree, but still available. Well, we have conflicts with Whately Inn if we were to consider a pub, that is a pub a reasonable alternative. If all of a sudden this whole center says, yeah, that'd be great, let's go. Can we do that? I would feel that would be disingenuous to be able to offer things that we really can't pull. We can't create.
Did this issue come up in the last survey because the preferred use was a restaurant?
Cafe.
Cafe, I thought it was actually whatever it was. I mean,
I think you raised an important point, because you don't want to raise expectations where everyone says this is what we want, and we know from day one it's not, it's a no-go. So, and a community center, people might think gymnasiums or something larger than what's even, that you can fit in the building. So what needs a I think it goes back to, do we need a community gathering space? And so we're on page 2, I have Whately needs a gathering space that serves refreshments. Does Whately meet on page 1? Whately needs a community center, maybe it's a community area, but that's kind of.
Then you get to like, it's kind of vague and I don't know what a community area is.
It doesn't seem to be the right term that's coming to my mind, but. Rich, I appreciate what you're saying, because I think when people think of community center. They may think of some services along with programming and recreation.
Part of me wants to say that we should give them the opportunity to write in what they believe they should have. And I know that opens up the possibilities for a lot of different things. And I know what we're trying to do here is give them some options to say, oh, what about this? What about this? What do you think of this? Because these are some of the things that came up from the last survey. And I'm trying to figure out, how do we narrow this down so it serves the targeting audience, and it's something that we can actually make happen. If that were to be the most popular option, and the building will allow it, but will the building allow it, and can we do it? And do we leave an option for them to provide another option?
isn't there something at the end?
There should be something at the end of
There
that. But do we do it at the bottom of this, so it's included in this, so they have, so folks have an opportunity to say, well, no, none of these things are anything I'm really interested in, but. It may not be feasible, you know, somebody might say we want to put in a pet shop, but, and that may not be feasible, but it. Let them make that decision. We're not telling you. You should do a pet shop, but we really can't. Okay. Am I making sense with that?
Some of the point of these kinds of questions is to just get them thinking.
I agree.
And I don't think we're promising anywhere that any of this is really all of this is feasible. And obviously you get expense.
I just wanted to have that conversation because it bothered me looking through it, trying to think if there's another way, perhaps we brainstorm it to get done. To decide whether there's a better way of postulating the question. So it serves us even better than what we're doing. And this may be the best option that we have, but sometimes I can't help myself.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's stay with the specific. Should we keep the Whately needs a community center with that phrasing?
I think you could make a case that the town hall is not serving.
Yeah, I frankly didn't understand that, because for exactly that reason, actually, it is community. Very active.
Busy all the time.
So should we take that out from question 5 and leave the other references? I like the, where it is on the second page. Like, a gathering space that serves refreshments. And all the other specifics.
Excuse me.
Here I am.
Does the,
Catch up.
does the open-ended, is it more valuable in terms of how it's making people think about things? Or is it a negative because it creates confusion because of the existing town hall and because?
It might be a good way to gauge whether or not people see town hall as a community center that is useful. Because I think if a bunch of people said Whately definitely needs a community center, then we know town hall isn't meeting people's needs or expectations of that, just as a pitch.
Well, we already have the master plan and use studies, we supposedly got it back. So.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's another way to gauge that information.
You were voting yes or no to keep the question in.
Change it to another community center.
Okay.
For an additional, that's, and then. Well, except nobody will understand. I would take that. I think we're making too much of that back here.
Yeah. My.
We are, I think, getting close to over engineering this
Right,
survey.
well, I was gonna say exactly the same thing, I think the hired guy, that's what it is.
We made some edits. Kathy, you heard the discussion. Can we leave it to you to?
Yeah, I'm keeping track of the edits that need to be made. I'll
Yeah, no,
make sure
I'm
that they're-
here, nonsense with that.
Okay, so
Well, before I forget what I'm gonna say, right under that gathering space and serves refreshments, I don't understand this. Makerspace or co-working spaces are needed, new uses in Whately.
yeah, new uses got confused me too.
Yeah, but that,
Yes,
So
that was a
basically
written
that's-
comment I received from somebody else who wasn't able to be present today. They recommended. Sorry, I'm just looking. for
I'm
it.
just looking at it grammatically, I'm not
I
looking at
totally
it.
agree with you.
Yeah.
You just take a.
I would say I would phrase it as because there's kind of a cadence running, Whately needs blank. We could phrase it as Whately needs a makerspace or co-working space. Cause then it matches the form of other
Or
questions.
makerspace or co-working spaces are needed in Whately.
Either way,
Yeah, both ways work, yeah, but the new uses needs to be.
On the feasibility issue, I have serious doubts that the zoning is allowed the post office. I don't. I guess we could find that out after the fact if people are interested. Be useful to know if people are interested.
I think
So
it'd be useful to
post
know,
office,
yeah.
I doubt that this is the place. Right, but. Can be the place for it. That's another question.
All right,
Do we need to define more either affordable housing or senior housing? There's such confusing terms. Or do we just,
I think once you, this is a broad brush survey.
I would say we want people's first impressions, I don't think it's necessarily super important, I think, you know. Especially with the senior housing question, it seems that people around here, would know if they qualify, I think. We're gauging general interest, so we wanna know if somebody's generally interested in it in the next few years. I think we're going for estimations and ballparks. I could see the case being made to just put a number on what senior means, and so just like independent senior housing in parentheses.
Once you put numbers, I mean, on senior housing, most people know senior housing is either. There isn't, some say 55 and above, some say 60, some say 65. But even if someone is 55 and others don't think, by the time this is done, they're getting pretty close to 60 or 65. So thinking forward, that may be an issue. In terms of affordable housing, I have seen definitions of affordable housing going anywhere from 80% of area median income or less. And the problem with them is depends upon household size. But then you can define affordable housing as for workforce housing that goes from anywhere from 80% of area median income, not Whately median income, to 125% of area median income. So we can do all the definitions, but it gets.
It's also gonna stop people from finishing the survey if they have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know,
but I mean, to some degree, I mean, the answer is yes. There's no sort of, do we even need to ask the question? The answer is.
well, you would be surprised. I would not assume that everyone in town would be supportive of affordable housing. I was here when you did the last time when the town invested and created 2 or 3 affordable housing units. And people were supportive, and town meetings supported, but you also got grant money for that. And I think it was Susan Wright who was town administrator then. But I think I have also been in communities where people go, no, we don't want that.
Because we don't want those sorts living here.
So I think it's better not to assume that and get a comfort level. And a lot of this has to go back to town meetings, so having some gauge of people's comfort level with different issues will help you with a town meeting strategy.
Okay.
Also, to some extent, affordable housing is just housing people can afford to live in. I mean, no matter.
Well, that's, I mean. Yeah, that's where the definition comes in, because. Everything is no longer affordable.
Yeah.
So,
But if people are then saying, I have family members who may need, and we also said affordable rental housing, which is a little different than affordable home ownership. And that's not to say we couldn't explore affordable home ownership at center school. But I wanted to gauge the interest in affordable rental housing. I assume there'd be interest in affordable home ownership in Whately, maybe, because you are principally, a community of homeowners. So that there's a little bit of a, different cut on that affordable housing question. It's not just saying it's wonderful, but, I can remember a couple years ago when I was in a setting and I was surprised that this one person goes, oh yeah, I want affordable housing. I have kids living in my basement. So I think, sometimes we're surprised at who may come up and say it. But it is, affordability is very fungible. And it depends upon your funding sources, so.
Can we address the question of why we're doing a survey now? Why we're doing another survey? And in part, the answer is it really was a long time ago now.
I think the one that made the most sense to Ashley is because the pandemic changed an awful lot of things. I mean, I know it's changed my travel shopping patterns hugely.
Right.
And it also means a lot more people are in town and working from home. They didn't used to be. And that right there is a huge cultural shift.
I agree, Judy. That was, so if you guys remember from our site visit, this was something that we touched upon. And we talked about one, and it's funny because Lynn Sibley actually emailed me about this last week, asking why we were doing another.
Right.
And from our minutes, we had said, one, the other one was quite a bit ago. Two, it was pre-COVID. We are now in a post-COVID world. And so the patterns have changed, the way people use things have changed, and what people desire out of their community spaces has also changed.
Okay, so let me just clarify. Let me rephrase my question. Is it valuable to point these things out in this? I sort of see this as the introduction to the survey, right?
Yeah.
It's advertising it. And I am thinking people are asking, why are we doing another one? And that addressing why might make sense.
So fair enough, but since post-COVID situations have changed in our society, we're asking this again. Never been.
I don't want anyone to say, I already answered that, why are they, why are they asking again? I think it's,
They're gonna say that.
they are gonna say that, right? So I think we need to say why we're asking again.
So let me, I agree. It occurred to me, and I don't remember in yours, the technical years article, do you mention that this is a second survey?
No.
Okay,
That's what she asked, she must have.
I was thinking the same thing. I mean, I don't think it have to go into great detail. I would just say it was a long time ago, but this is the second survey.
Yeah, okay. I'm happy to redraft.
Should I put,
this.
Whately residents second survey on the header?
No, I would think that this is gonna be in the same,
Yeah.
scoop. Same scoop, so in the introductory stage, we decided to do a second survey. Sorry, I know you had it down, but
This is draft.
yeah.
I just thought it would help to have something to.
Yeah, it always
Yeah.
helps to have something. Okay, so I'm happy to redraft this and send it to everybody. But you said you're not available. Right, okay. Is there any more feedback on the actual survey? Why do we ask gender? Gender.
Because sometimes you get different answers,
Correlation.
to see.
Yeah. I just say it's pretty basic demographics, and the same way that we're like, oh, we wanna see east, west versus central, we might find that men and women have very different desires.
Also,
I'll also say for me previously in my last job, we very frequently would isolate women's responses to our surveys because we were surveying mothers and we were looking to target youth and children. And the best way to do that is see what mothers are saying. And so it can be useful in those ways.
Also, you get 2/3 of response from women,
It also tells us about how we're advertising.
how you're advertising, and also what people in general are interested. Maybe it's just who has time to fill out the survey.
Awesome. All right, it sounds like that was what we had to say for the survey. Is there any outstanding comments, questions, concerns? I know at the end, we also got to talk about the scoop article. Is there any other comments, edits, concerns about the scoop article?
Kathy's gonna give you a QR code,
Yeah,
and you're gonna give her a link.
Yes. I will make the webpage up.
I'm gonna redraft this. Send it to everybody and Rusty will incorporate the
Yeah.
QR code and whatever Kathy.
Yeah,
gives
I'm
you.
happy to do the
However we
format.
finalize
If you
it.
give me the copy, I'll format. So I think that stuff's easy for me.
Good.
Are there any items not previously anticipated?
I have that one thing, your comments about the post office. I think you need to kind of maybe share this and I can discuss. One of the things
I have
I'm thinking about feasibility is looking at, what the competition is. And while we don't usually think of post offices having competition, they indeed do. So I wanted to look at what, how big all the post offices were in the adjoining areas. And who owned the post office, what the size was, what their lot size was, because that might be an indication of parking. How old they were, how frequently they were open. I also looked up whether or not they had any carrier routes identified. And a couple things about carrier routes, only the Whately and North Hatfield post offices have no carrier routes, no routes, either rural or carrier affiliated with them. Which means Whately's, all the mail at Whately is in, in the post office boxes, they're not, it's not a any level of distribution other through postal boxes.
Makes it hard to get a real ID.
And, the other part of that is, I think what's interesting is South Deerfield has, if the carrier route, they have the zip code and then it's followed by either an R, which is a rural route, which is a driving route, or a carrier route, which is a walking route. So only South Deerfield has what's known as a carrier route, which is a walking route. On post offices that have either rural or carrier routes, I could identify the number of residences and the number of businesses as to each. So I thought that might be an interesting just point of comparison. But I think what's, salient is that Whately has a small postal facility. It is the only postal facility that is on public property.
Belong to the historic society.
Yes,
It's,
yeah.
well,
Yeah, but it's on.
it's, the property is still owned by the town.
Okay.
And at the time I did this, I did not realize that the historical society was getting rent from the post
The
office.
Historical Society owns the building,
But not a lot.
but not the lot, right?
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. One other competitive thing that would be interesting is how far the adjacent post offices are from.
I have that column, but I haven't finished doing the data, so I had that, I was interested in that too, truth is. I was also interested if I could find out when the lease expirations were on the.
She sent that to us.
Yeah,
30.
yeah, I just
2030.
gave it to you, with the little map.
Yeah, no, I saw that, and the date, right, but
Everybody.
I was interested in what that was for, the other post offices.
You got a letter from post office, correct?
No, Peter King got it.
Peter Kane got it.
I was just gonna say, and I think it got sent to the whole town after that.
Yeah.
But yes, I did see that.
Alright, so Peter Kane got a letter from the post office, I
saw
did, you did see that post office.
Tell me she wants to know.
But I think this is important to know whether it's for center school or for Whately's efforts to protect its postal office identity. And
I don't know that the lease extent matters because I think that's a really standard lease. They can terminate it under.
Yeah, 2030 was the date on the lease, but yes.
yeah, they're usually
They
at,
have the right to cancel it.
Yeah, no, I think they can extend it to 25.
Yeah, that I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah, but they can cancel it in 6 months.
I know that,
All right.
but, cause Commonwealth does the same thing with state leases, but they don't even give you 6 months, so, but I think, but what it does is point out where people anticipate there might be a change. And they might just do a renewal, but sometimes they go out for it also. Usually they stay put once you've got a post.
Just real quick, I want to draw attention, it is 12:30. I don't want anybody to miss an appointment, if they've got an appointment, I'm happy to keep going, I've got probably another 30 minutes. Before I have to go do some other stuff. So I just wanted to put that out there, otherwise we can continue conversation.
This is more info item.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Thank you, that's all.
That tells us a lot about you, that you put in. That this interested you enough to put these pieces together.
Well, you know, I'm trying to number. But when you're analyzing and looking at, office space or commercial, you kind of have to look at. I think understanding not just market demand, but market competition is an important thing. And I think you can apply the same principles to community services.
I love it.
I move the return.
Well, before we do, wasn't it next month that we were talking about changing our meeting?
Yes, we need to,
Yeah.
So let's just confirm.
To the Thursday.
to the Thursday,
Right. Yeah, the number.
Rich's.
Oh, you don't?
Where are we talking about the 25th instead of the 24th?
yes, I believe so,
9 September
or the
25th, yes,
25th.
and
Fifth,
30 and 30.
Yeah.
Has anybody had direct communication with Becky Jones?
I wanna say yes, I feel like she might have emailed me recently, I know I forwarded stuff to her and Stan and,
She's in,
the third person.
you've included her in everything. I directly communicated with her saying, call me, I want to talk to you. And she's the, She's the one person on our group who doesn't like the daytime meeting time, because she's at work. And so I just wanna keep her in mind and make sure she still feels connected. I reached out to her to talk to me directly. If she's happy, I'm thrilled. Daytime is great for the rest of us.
All right.
Ask you a question on this South Deerfield 1073 and had 3 routes here. Is one of these routes weighted in?
We have to second the motion and vote it
Second.
through.
I'm thinking,
Judy's curious about the motion to adjourn. Are we ready there?
I'm very.
Yeah. I was gonna say, we can keep chatting in here. I'm not gonna close the room right away, but I know that folks wanna head out, and then this is good for my minutes and my recording.
So,
It's 3